and welcome to ScreenVomit, the only movie podcast for normal people. I'm, of course, your host, Kayla. Here with me is my twin, Kali J.
Hey, quack, quack, babies.
All right, so today with us, we have two guests. Only our second time in history having two guests, so this should be a wild ride. Our guests today are a filmmaking team. They're buds. They make up a creative collective known as Emulsion Lab, and they've done lots of stuff, including music videos, you know I love to rock, for bands like Pet Sematary and Laura Jane Grace, among others. They have also just completed their first feature film, which we'll talk about, and that would be Sean Kelly and Remsy Atassi.
Hey, welcome.
What's up, guys?
Hey.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
all.
hell yeah. Okay, so I've known Sean for several years.
Yes.
We met back in the day, of course. Anyone I've known for several years is a rocker. So I met Sean when he was playing in the band Merit Badge.
Ah, yes. The Merit Badge days.
What was that, 6 or so years ago?
It's kind of insane to think that it's been that long, but I think you might be right, actually.
Dang.
That's really insane.
Yeah. Me and Kali were just talking before recording about... Kali, tell them what you told me.
What did I tell you? Wait.
About 1970.
Oh, you know the fucking 1970s were 50 years ago.
It is insane.
Nuts.
So...
And also, like, relatively speaking, 50 years now, but like, well, I don't know. I think I'm 31. That's right, 31. And so it was less than 20 years back then when I was born.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's the way I think about it. I'm like, it's 50 years from now. So what does that mean in terms of my time here?
Dumb as fuck.
It's getting really very real.
Okay, so Sean told me about y'all's meet cute recently. Sean, tell the story for the pod about how y'all two met.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Maybe actually, Remsy, you should give your intro first because yours goes further back than mine.
Okay.
I can keep it brief.
I need from birth.
From birth.
God.
Okay, I'm all the way back. No,
Catch
so
us
I mean, I'm a filmmaker. I've been
Mhm.
doing it for a while, one way or another. But I ended up in Chicago about 15 years ago, a little less, doing video stuff. I went to school here, college at Loyola. So when I got out, I kind of was into film, but for one reason or another, I kind of ended up here. And I didn't study it in college, but I kind of started in the business. So I did sort of advertising and stuff like that, just kind of work on my own. And I met Sean doing that. He was working in a recording studio, actually, which makes sense. And I think that might have been back around when he was playing in that group.
I definitely was, yeah.
Because I saw him a couple times, I remember. But yeah, so he was in a recording studio and I was doing like a music video actually with this person who's a friend of mine. And so, yeah, I don't know what it was. I think we were just like talking and Sean seemed like he was really interested in like filmmaking, even though he was working at this studio. And, we were just, we kind of hit it off. And so I had some work that was like coming up and, at that point my business was kind of growing a bit. And so I was kind of trying to meet some new people to sort of work with. And I was just like, hey, if you want to come and help me out on this thing for, I don't know, a couple days. And so he was down. And then that was like the poison pill. You get into the business. So we just worked together for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And then we started doing Emulsion Lab like 5 years ago or something. We had gotten working closer through just work stuff and sort of collaborating in that way. And we were both really interested in trying to focus on more creative type projects, which is a lot different than advertising.
Yeah.
There's some crossover, but it's a lot different. Yeah, so that's as far as I'll take this, I guess. Did I hit the
No,
the
you
moments?
you nailed it. I mean, I remember when we met. I mean, maybe this is just the way that I remember it, but I remember you had like a C100 at the time, and I knew just enough about cameras to be like, oh, what shutter speed were you shooting at and stuff. And I think I don't know, yeah. But I'd just been like super hobbyist photographer sort of at that point, like was just doing music stuff mostly. But yeah, no, it's been really cool. Like we've done like a ton of work over the years, and it's just like continued to like blossom into this like crazy fun creative partnership that has like been great for years, but the past couple years, in my opinion, is like truly apex because we've just finished this humongous project, like definitely the biggest project that either of us have like ever worked on.
Yeah.
So.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's your movie, Bad Animal, yeah?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Amazing.
Okay, so tell us about the the movie.
Yeah, sure. So Sean and I are both executive producers,
Mm-hmm.
kind of produced the film. I wrote and directed it, and Sean photographed it. He's the director of photography. It's a love story set in the Chicago music scene. And it comes out of a lot of, I think, just our experiences, like working with so many artists and in this incredible artistic community in Chicago that encompasses film and music and just art. And it really, that kind of community is like sort of where we've been focused on with the Emulsion Lab, and we've made like so many friends and have met so many amazing artists and people who you get to see them grow. And so that's what it's about, and it's also kind of the world that we have come out of. Michael DeVille, who is a hip-hop artist, poet, just a really awesome person, musician. So he plays Sembre, who's like a hip-hop artist in the film, and then Rivka Reyes. They play Marlene, who is kind of the love interest, but also they sort of collaborate and do music together. And it sort of tracks their relationship over like 4 or 5 years, sort of the ups and downs, and highlights Chicago, highlights the music scene. And yeah, I don't know. What do you say, Sean? You got anything?
Yeah, no, I mean, that kind of nails it. And it's, I mean, their like specific collaboration is mostly like artist and manager type thing. And there's like a lot of back and forth on just Marlene's character kind of like wanting to express themselves like a little bit more, but being held back by the constraints of the situation and just like the turmoil that kind of comes with that.
It feels like a kind of a portrait of this kind of music world in Chicago. And it's about a lot, it's about that kind of world, but it is sort of their interpersonal drama is what drives it. Sort of price of success, like what it takes to be, successful or whatever, this like kind of small celebrity. I mean, it's set in this DIY scene in Chicago where, it's not about, I think for all these artists, it's not about like hitting it big. It's really about the artistry of it. But also, you reach a point in life where the business of it or success and things like that come, and it sort of makes you recalibrate and reevaluate your decisions. So that's kind of what it's about, that transition in life. Yeah, and it's a feature film, and it is now done, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Remsy, what's your connection to the music scene? Like, were you ever a musician, or were you just into it, or how did you get involved with the Chicago music scene?
Yeah, well, I am a lifelong musician.
Oh, cool.
I always just have like been extremely passionate about music. And my brother, when I moved to Chicago, we did a lot of music stuff together. What I played mostly was like jazz. Yeah, so I love just like playing that, and I got out of it at a certain point, just like as I became really focused on filmmaking professionally, and I used to play, a lot of guitar and stuff like that. But
he's really good.
Did you have bands? You got stuff?
I have bands, but it's from really long ago. Like by the time I think I stopped doing this when I was like 22 or 23.
Are you shy to drop the names?
Nothing that you would heard, like seriously, nothing you would have heard of. I played in a group called AKA the Eye when I was here. That was when I was in college, and that was fun. And there were some good people. My brother is like a super, super, super serious guitar player. He played, I should say, in the Curls.
Oh, okay. I've played a show with the Curls.
Oh,
nice.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he was in the Curls.
He also does music for the movie, right?
Right.
Yes,
so,
Rami, who is also the composer of all the music, or at least of all the sort of musical scores.
Exactly.
And
Yeah. So all of the composition in the film, and then doing Emulsion Lab, he was always kind of in the background. He's not really, I guess, he's not on the website. I guess none of us are, but he's not, it's not his thing in that way, but like he's been there from the very beginning and helping to kind of connect us with people and opening doors and introducing us to people, because he's just like been a huge part of the music scene for a long time. So yeah, doing Emulsion Lab is the key connection. I think we just met so many people, and beyond that, like you really just people's sort of stories and the incredible stuff that people do. I just think it's amazing being an artist in Chicago. I guess I somewhat remotely consider myself among them, but in a way, like, I still do so many other things, but like people who are truly dedicated in the artistry of it there's amazing stuff here, and people don't know about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, a lot of like a ton of the effort that we put into like the pre-production on it was basically just like commissioning all these like Chicago artists. Like honestly, like a lot of people that we're really just like friends with to write.
Some people we just liked, people who we just respected.
Yeah, I guess we didn't really know Pixel Grip before then. That was sort of like, we just liked
So you
them.
didn't pick any bad people?
No.
That you hate?
No stinkers.
We went after the people that we really wanted to work work with, and most of them were down.
Sick.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So we were really lucky in that
Rules.
way. And some of them are awesome. I mean, it's, Pixel Grip did music, Chris Crack, the Palmer Squares, Malky, my brother did a bunch of stuff, and then Pet Symmetry has a track in it, Fovely.
So was a big part of your intention, it sounds like, with the movie was to help kind of promote some of those artists that the world maybe doesn't know about?
I think that is true. I think on the other hand of it, to be honest, these artists, even just, I mean, we've been doing this project for 3 years. And so it's like from where we started to where we are now. I mean, these artists, I mean, they'll elevate the profile of the movie because they're all amazing, you know? I mean, I think it's symbiotic in that way because like they really do amazing work. They're all, I mean, really they're all on the verge or breaking out in their own ways. Like they're all really amazing artists.
Totally.
Hell yeah. What type of movies do y'all typically like personally to watch?
So I guess I like all sorts of stuff, but I guess my default is to kind of be in like more of a like horror, it's like psychological thriller type like zone. That's like kind of where I
Hell yeah.
sort of like get into most of the time. I mean, I obviously like a lot of movies. I was stoked on.
Got a
y'all's,
video drum tattoo.
I do have a video drum tattoo. Yes.
Oh yeah.
So that gives you an idea. And then
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I like crime drama type stuff. I love old samurai movies. Actually, one of the last movie theater experiences I remember having prior to COVID was me and Remsy going to see what was it, Seven Samurai. It started at midnight.
I fell asleep at the very end. I was so tired.
4 hours.
It's insane. It's completely insane. It was like a Wednesday or something. Like,
oh, that's so funny. It was just the middle of the week. We went at a midnight showing.
It was dope though. But yeah, that's kind of where I sort of sit and kind of pull a lot of stuff from, I feel like.
Remsy?
Yeah. I definitely like a lot of stuff, but like I think my favorite stuff, like I mean I love art house cinema. That's just like my favorite stuff. So my favorite filmmakers are like Bergman and Tarkovsky, Kurosawa.
Hell yeah.
That's like the stuff I just like love.
The good shit. Yeah.
The good shit, like new, like the new wave stuff. I love like the French New Wave and all that. All of it pretty much. So I that's like my favorite kind of stuff. But it's, you know, you got to be in the right place to watch it. And I definitely don't mean to make it seem like I like all kinds of stuff, and I'm definitely keep it pretty mainstream too. But that's like the kind of filmmaking that really inspires me.
Sure.
Hell yeah. Okay, so we should get into the movie we did today.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Which is the 2016 film The Handmaiden, which I believe Remsy had the biggest hand in picking.
I guess I gave a list.
So tell us, without spilling too many beans, why you chose this one.
I selected it because, for one, I knew that it would be up Sean's alley.
Totally.
Okay.
I knew it was something we could both get behind.
Okay.
He knows me too well.
And also, I mean, I realized once I started watching it that I had actually seen. I saw it in the theaters, but I forgot.
Same actually too. We'd both like completely forgotten that we'd seen it. But like,
I saw it in the theater, and once I started, I was like, oh shit, we picked this one. This movie's crazy.
It is amazing though. It's such a good movie. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a fucking ride.
Yeah, I'm really glad that y'all picked this. However, is it strange for me to think about talking about one of the horniest lesbian movies I've ever seen with 3 straight men?
Actually, here's the thing I couldn't stop thinking about when I was watching it was in the time when I watched it, which was like 5 or 6 years ago. It never, like, you know, obviously it's whatever. I mean, you even look at the description of it, and it's an erotic thriller, right? And so when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, those are really intense sex scenes. But honestly, thinking about it now, watching it, you're just like, wow, it is just this one, and it's written and produced and directed by this one dude, you know, Park Chan Wook, is that right? The guy who did Old Boy. And he's a madman, but at the same time, like, it's pretty damn weird that he did that, and it won the Palme d'Or. And it's kind of like that was the conversation, but it is pretty weird that it's this like crazy, you know, very graphic sexual relationship, and it's just directed by this dude who wrote it, and it's just his own kind of. I mean, it's based on a book, I think, but you know, very much his fantasy. And also the other movie that I think it won Palme d'Or, which was Blue is the Warmest Color, which is a movie that I mean, I like it, but it's the same thing. You're like, that aspect of it is pretty weird.
Yeah.
Well, I think he did some good stuff with it, and well, I'll hold on to that until we get actually into the story of it. and yeah, we'll talk about that. So yeah, it is, as you said, directed, co-wrote, and produced by Park Chan Wook, who's known for probably Old Boy more than anything else. Kali, tell us the critic scores.
We got Rotten Tomatoes with a 95%.
Wow, not bad.
Uh-huh.
Metacritic, I don't know who chose Metacritic, 84%. And Google users are wild cards, 90%.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Wow, that's high.
So outstanding critic scores on this one, I would say.
I'm with it.
One of the highest we've had in a while. All right, so normally we watch the trailer before we get into discussion, but this movie is not in English, so that will do nobody any good on a podcast. So I'm going to have somebody read a plot summary. Who wants to read?
Sean.
Ooh, a plot summary. All right, the plot summary. With help from an orphan pickpocket, a Korean con man devises an elaborate plot to seduce and bilk a Japanese woman out of her inheritance.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think this movie is also one that we have to spoiler alert.
It's going to be hard not to.
Well, we always say everything that happens in the movie, but I don't think always knowing what happens in a movie will spoil a viewing experience. Sure. But I think this one has so many twists and shit.
Right, it's kind of a thriller.
That, like,
sort of.
If you know what happens, it will spoil a viewing experience. So I just want a spoiler alert before we get into it. If you want to watch this movie and you haven't, you should, and come back. Remsy, you mentioned this is loosely inspired by the novel Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. Mm-hmm. Our setting is in mid-30s.
Yeah. It's a strike against it. Period pieces.
Oh, come on.
Not a fan. Anything that happened before the 50s, unless it's labor history related, I don't care about it. I don't give a shit. They're dead.
Well,
oh my God.
So he specifically chose the 30s for a few reasons. So this is in Korea. The director, most of the cast is Korean. And in the 30s, that was the Japanese colonial era of Korea. So it was ran by Japan at the time. So at this point in time, they had a very distinct class system in Korea, and also were just starting to westernize a bit, and that's when mental hospitals also became a thing there. So those two things were, to Park Chan Wook, critical to tell this story, and that period of time is the time when those things existed in Korea. So that's why it's set in the 30s.
Sure.
When was the book written? Do you know?
The book is set in the 19th century. So it's set in the 1800s in London, actually.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, so this is just it's a loosely inspired by. So it's not even really like an adaptation.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think there are many differences.
That's actually extremely interesting. Wow, I had no idea.
I kind of figured that was the case, but I didn't really look into it or know it, because it's not like the book. It doesn't seem like it's very heavily credited, so you kind of assume that it's just like a inspired by sort of thing.
Yeah, and they actually did send the script to the book author, and just from...
Who's a woman, right? The book is written by a woman.
Yes, it is. And just from what I read from her response, seemed like her reaction was, this is way more fucked up than my book. And I would just call it inspired by, please don't say that this is what my book is like, kind of thing.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Hell yeah.
You kind of get it. I mean, you get it.
Seriously.
I mean, Park Chan Wook definitely has a style and like a tone that he goes for in his stuff, and it comes through in this movie too.
Oh yeah.
But also should say that this film was co-written by a woman, so just for the record, there is a co-writer, and it is a woman. Also, another note on the time period, I think, so I had not seen this movie before. Kali, had you seen it?
No.
Okay, so we had not seen.
Nope.
And I'd known about this movie loosely. Well, I knew that it existed and what it was called, and that it was a lesbian's timepiece story. And yeah, I just thought this was going to be like, I didn't even know Park Chan Wook did it when before. I thought this was going to be like another like Portrait of a Lady on Fire, or like, whatever. Yeah. One of those hot romance in the 1800s, the only time lesbians were ever alive type things. Boy, was I surprised. Pleasantly surprised. surprised. Actually, thrilled, even.
Yeah, it's a crazy movie. It is. I love the period element of it. Like
Absolutely.
I love, especially in Korea, just like being able to see, I think honestly, like I was saying, like art house stuff and like a lot of foreign stuff, because it does, especially, it just transports you. I mean, it's a totally different world. It's cool, really cool, I think.
I obviously knew that the time period was involving the Japanese occupation, but I didn't know much about it itself, which honestly, like, I mean, there's a lot of elements that are really wild that you see in this movie, but there's like sort of this underlying, like almost like metaphorical aspect that kind of deals in the I mean, there was a huge effort on the Japanese to like erase the Korean culture. Yeah, I mean, there's most cases of colonialism, but this aspect of erasing culture, and you even find it in the movie where they're changing the colors of subtitles to distinguish when they're speaking Japanese and Korean, which makes sense from a logistic viewpoint, but also almost has this other aspect to it.
And Japanese culture was so dominant. I mean, the Japanese at that time had such a dominant culture.
Totally. Because if I remember right, it was Hideko's uncle, the insane squid mouth dude, is Korean, correct? And he's like, he's
Korean, but he's like obsessed with the Japanese mindset.
Yeah.
I think they call him a Japanophile.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. Most people in this film are trying to be more Japanese, or like there's sort of the more Japanese you act is the more like regal you are somehow, or upper class.
Absolutely.
Which is ironic as the film goes on. You see, it's got a dark underbelly.
Basically goes upside down.
I thought about that, which I don't think it's been so long since I saw it before. I didn't really remember much of my thoughts about it, but like it does vaguely, it's hard to articulate without really sitting and thinking about it. But with the whole occupation aspect and so much of like the fact that she's almost like a prisoner in this house in the story, it kind of all is connected in a way to that cultural thing.
Absolutely.
So this movie is told in 3 parts. The first part is predominantly told from the viewpoint of the titular handmaiden herself.
Suki.
So I will say I am not good with names. So when names get in here, I'm lost. So my notes have the 4 main characters as handmaiden, lady. That's a capital L lady, not just like some lady. A capital L lady. The count and the uncle. Okay. For simplicity's sake.
Absolutely.
And it's Hideko, right? Is the name
The lady.
of the...
Yeah.
I don't.
It is. That's her name. Yeah.
I tell you
I am
what.
not good with names.
I tried to keep track of names in this movie, and I was worse off for it.
Yeah. Well, also like the
It's
handmaiden.
archetypes.
The handmaiden gives like a pseudonym for parts of the movie.
Suki equals Okju equals Tamako.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
so like, who knows? I remember Suki just
It's true.
because that is the girl from True Blood.
Oh, hell yeah.
Suki?
Suki Stackhouse.
Man, my dad loves
Boo.
True Blood.
Wait, what the fuck?
You're saying the actor is in True
Are you
Blood?
serious?
Loves
That's
it.
the character's name.
We got a dad loving a true blood loving
My
dad?
mom gives him shit all the time for it.
That's amazing.
Some people love that.
That's outstanding.
It's great.
I never watched True Blood.
I don't think he
Wow.
likes it as much as my mom, like, almost like weirdly wants him to, because she just like loves giving him shit about it. But he does like it.
course.
Yeah, he has definitely watched all of it.
That rules.
He like kind of liked it, and then your mom roasted him for it.
That's so funny. That's amazing.
She just
Yeah,
makes
that
fun
rocks.
of all the sexy vampires and the she loves that.
Yeah.
She loves giving him shit.
Oh my god.
There are points of the show that are so sex heavy, but
That rules. I'm just picturing. I don't want to assume, but like a 65-year-old guy just
you're
like.
picturing Sean's dad watching people have sex, is what you're about to
Yeah, I
say?
am. And you know what? I'm imagining it. I think it's
Yeah.
great. Good for
I
him.
mean, I'm thinking about it now
Oh
too.
my
I don't
God.
know how I feel about that, but
I'm so sorry, Sean.
it's okay. I'll be fine.
Okay, and we have one sentence into the plot.
We're doing great.
Sorry, True Blood takes precedence.
Okay, so this handmaiden, who is a normal girl at first, or a criminal, some would say, is on her way to become a handmaiden at this mansion because, so she's a crime not a crime boss. She's a crime doer.
Well, we don't need to stigmatize her, all right?
She's a crime
getting
boss.
by. She's getting by. You know? She's doing what she needs to do.
The honorable thief.
This podcast is pro-crime.
There you go.
She's working on selling abandoned babies to Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Look.
When a crime guy comes in with a scheme he wants her to partake in. And the scheme is for her to become a handmaiden for this rich-ass woman and make the woman fall in love with him so that he can marry the woman and then declare her insane and take all her money.
Which is wild.
Right?
Easy as pie.
Yeah.
Also, I really like crime guy. I think we could just lose the count archetype and just call him crime guy.
Either or, interchangeable. Yeah.
This is a trope in like Korean cinema. It seems like it was. There was that. What was that movie a couple years ago? So good. The South Korean film. But it's about like the woman who like goes in.
Parasite?
Oh, Parasite.
Parasite. Parasite.
Was it really Parasite?
Nailed it.
Parasite, exactly. No,
Hell
but
yeah.
it's the same trope. It's the exact same trope. It's like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a little different, but it's
I
like
noticed
she like
that well.
embeds herself
Yeah.
in with like the family, the upper
Okay.
class, you know?
Yeah.
It is very similar to Parasite for a bit.
It's different for sure too.
Yeah. That did not occur to me, the comparison, but you're right. Yeah. What happened? So the handmaiden goes over to the lady's house and is now her handmaiden.
They get things done so easily. I want to know this in
Yeah.
every movie with crime. They
Yeah.
seem to do it so easily. How do they just know someone? How do they just know how to? Oh, we just got you the job. What?
Well, he was already,
Well, don't spoil. We don't.
not
need
to spoil, but he was involved with the family, let's say, which we'll
Oh
talk
my
about
God.
later.
That's the good way to put it.
He was previously involved with the family.
I'm already exhausted.
So he had a foot in the door, let's say. It probably, I don't know, it seems like it was easier to do crime before like
Oh my God.
1960.
That's probably true.
That's
Yeah.
the only thing that I pine for about the olden days. Oh my God.
You get away with anything.
You could just say you're someone else, and there's nothing they can do to prove differently.
You can put a hat on and pretend you're a man instead.
Yes, it's so easy.
Don't forget the fake mustache.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
People were just more trusting. I mean,
I would have had it
It was
made.
better times. What can I say?
More trusting and the technology was worse.
Yeah,
so
the
the technology
that,
was so much worse that like you couldn't even be anxious about if someone was gonna hoodwink you. There was almost nothing you could do about it.
You
So
just get hoodwinked.
yeah, I just accept it as a fact of
Yeah.
life.
yeah.
And I'd be doing the hoodwinking. I want to.
I think he'd be pretty good at it.
Cully does his share of crime. I'm
Oh,
sure.
well, yes, I love crime. I am pro-crime. I try to commit a crime every day at my doctor's request.
It's impressive, actually.
It's, you know what? Easier than you think.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Oh no, do we have a cop on the pod? Remsy, you better confess to a crime before we start thinking you're a cop.
Yeah. We got one of these no crime guys over here, huh?
Seems sus.
God, there's so much evidence against me on this podcast already.
Okay, Cully's joined witness protection.
And bye.
Oh my God.
All right, so one of the first things that happens after this new handmaiden arrives is the bath scene. I feel like
yes.
it has to be discussed.
Wow.
One of the horniest non-sexual things I've ever seen.
The way they all do those lollipops is just
Oh.
disturbing. It's so sick to watch. It's like it is really sexual, but it's also like it's just not right. It's really unsettling. And then the uncle does it too with those like whatever they are. You don't know what they are, but you're like, God, that's gross.
Were lollies big in the 30s?
I hope so.
They must have been.
But what is in like what lollipop do you know that just makes your mouth go black? I mean, that's weird.
They probably like dyed it because it was like sugar and sugar, water, and they were like, okay, what do we have that's colorful? And
They
like,
probably
"Ooh."
dyed it with dyes that are illegal now.
Yeah.
Definitely an aesthetic choice, let's say.
But then there's like the squid ink later, so does that have something to do with
The
it?
squid ink.
I was gonna
It's
say
the squid ink.
there might be squid
Yeah.
ink
That's what it is.
lollipops.
That's what it is.
And that's like a Japanese thing, right?
I guess it is, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so fucked up. I didn't
It's a
even know- I
delicacy.
didn't even think about that.
Hey, one of the things in this scene that was supposed to be quote unquote sexy made me quote unquote uncomfortable.
The thimble?
Yes! I have been to the dentist like 6 times this fucking year.
Okay, brag.
Oh my god.
Dental
I tell you
insurance
what.
brag.
No! I've spent well over, I'm sorry, my levels are getting super high. I've spent well over $2,000 on dental care this year.
No.
Also, should say, between the 3 guests today, 3 including my co-host, perfect teeth all around.
Thank you.
Some of the world's most perfect teeth.
I tell you what, if I feel anything against my little, and I don't have sensitive teeth, I don't need the sensitive toothpaste, all right? I got tough boys. But if someone's gonna scraped my tooth or tried to file it, I'm sorry, I'm screaming, I'm hollering, I'm in pain. Your teeth have nerves in them, and she's sitting there like, oh yeah, we are horny for each other. This is a horny thing you are doing.
Is that something that people did back then, was just like file teeth down with a thimble? Like, that just seems
She said her
crazy.
tooth was so sharp it was cutting her.
Yeah.
What's going on
Has that
with the
shit
tooth?
ever happened to
No,
you?
I mean, that's where I'm saying this is one of these things that's just totally contrived in the weirdest way possible. I mean, that is just a weird thing. The whole scene is weird.
It's finding like this weird motivation for something that is
Yeah.
just like pulling something so just obtuse out.
Picturing a storyboard, and it's just like one panel is them in the bathtub, and the next panel is the maiden with her finger in her mouth, and he's like, how do I get this to happen? How do I get from point A to point B?
I feel like the actors here, they do a really good job. I mean, they just, the way that their personalities are, like they play both the types, you know, it's like an archetype sort of thing, and they both play it so well that you're able to like really, like, I think that the sexual stuff in it, I mean, is so ludicrous at points that it's, I mean, you have to assume that is the point somewhat, because it's like totally ludicrous, but they do a pretty good job of staying in it. I think the actors do a really good job.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
And it even like, doesn't it zoom in on like the handmaiden's like upper lip sweating
Yeah, I
during
think
this
so.
too?
There is so much goddamn trembling in this movie. There is quivering.
Well, I guess honestly, even to like Remsy's point, and not to like get too ahead of ourselves, but like, well, I guess every female identifying character is basically playing 2 different parts to a degree, I guess, you know, and it's like them like sort of like
Yeah,
holding
for
on
sure.
to their parts within these like kind of insane places. I mean, do they really hold on to it so well in like all these different scenarios, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh,
Yeah.
this movie's so good.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
So we meet the uncle. The uncle wants to marry the lady to keep the money in the family, which is disgusting.
She's rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Did we not say the lady and the uncle, they live in this gigantic mansion. They are extremely rich, like one of the richest people anywhere, I think.
She particularly, right, has like inherited a bunch of money that's like to her name. It kind of
Yeah.
seems like it's framed like the uncle
like-
doesn't quite have complete access to it. you
Yeah. And he has a gold mine or
Insane.
something. So he wants to marry her to also have access to her money and keep it in the
Greedy
family.
motherfuckers.
know? That's quite weird.
And that's just the tip of the damn iceberg on this man's weirdness.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
So we know that he is a book collector as well, of like extremely rare books, and we don't know much about the books for a little while, just that he has them and that he makes the lady read them with him, but we don't know anything about that really besides that for a while. Except one time that the handmaiden tries to go to the library. There's a snake on the ground, but it's not real, but she thinks it's real for a second.
Yeah,
Right?
totally.
I thought it was
Looks
real
to me.
until...
Yeah. Till they
Yeah, I
break
thought it was real until late in the movie.
When they break it,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, I think I did too.
I thought that was so badass.
Maybe that's part of like later we find out that she was specifically hired for being kind of a dummy, right? So
Right?
Yes.
maybe that's part of like she's just kind of dumb and thought it was real.
It seems like we're made to think that it's real
Because the first part is told through her perspective.
through her perspective.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he's a sick weirdo. And he also, several times throughout the movie, we see a man carrying him sitting in a chair on his back while he reads.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. That dude's quads. I want to see him.
That I didn't. They
Goals.
never bring that
Yeah.
back really.
They do it twice in the movie that I noticed.
Yeah.
But they don't really, it's not really like addressed. It just kind of
Never
happens.
explained.
No,
It's like he's so rich that he
God.
hires a guy to
To carry him around on his back.
like I'm sure that shit must have been real, but
It's a different kind of cash.
man, were either of them comfortable? That's a balancing act.
Yeah, because it's just a regular chair.
The
Wooden
power
chair.
move more than it's not about comfort really.
Yeah, it's definitely more about power.
So the whole thing was supposed to be for the handmaiden to make the lady fall in love with the count. But of course, they start falling in love with each other. And next important thing that happens is the first sex scene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which they come back to. It's kind of like all these scenes in the first act, they sort of revisit through another lens, which I think is a really cool
It's
way
so
of
cool.
storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you thought it's weird that a man wrote some lesbian sex.
I mean,
So-
okay, I'm not saying it's weird that he wrote lesbian sex. I just think that, I mean, any scene where there's this level of graphic sexuality, I think you have to at least ask the question of, like, what's the purpose and, where is it coming from and is it exploitative,
Right. Yeah. So there definitely can be downsides to people, let's say straight men writing lesbian sex scenes. But this director, he wrote with a woman, and he also, during the script writing stage, consulted one of his best friends who is a queer woman for advice on, all that. The sensibilities of queer women and, what happens, what would be realistic, etc. And also for the sex scenes, he actually went to extraordinarily great lengths to ensure the privacy and comfort of the actresses. So the only person in the room with them was one single female crew member holding a boom. And all the other crew members were asked to leave the set.
Oh, wow.
All the male
Oh, yeah.
crew members had the day off, and the scenes were filmed with a remote-controlled camera.
No way. That's wild.
So he
Wow.
really went to great lengths to make sure that these two women were as comfortable as possible and to get it done as quickly and easily as possible so that they didn't have to be uncomfortable.
That's very cool.
That's crazy because
Hell
the
yeah.
scenes are so extensive.
They
that
are.
It's hard to imagine a way that it could even be done quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
They're very
Yeah.
extensive.
I will say too, honestly, like as like intense as the sex scenes are, like in a weird way, they don't really feel super like out of place because of the absurdity of the absurdity of the rest of the movie actually makes it fit in a very strange and like cohesive way, I think, which is kind of wild to me. But
They made sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I thought
sure.
the way that they introduced the first sex scene, like how they come to be having sex or whatever, I thought that was pretty smart.
it was very cute, really.
It was cute. It was
Yeah.
sweet. It fit in well, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think that it's out of place.
Remsy hated it, and
I didn't. No, I don't.
No. I get it.
I'm just saying that I just think you got to ask those questions, and especially like
no, sure.
I mean, the idea in cinema, the male gaze, quote unquote, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's like the most classic like film theory thing. I mean, it's not a new idea, right?
Yeah.
So
I tell you what, I am pretty much in that boat with you too, because there are, cumulatively probably like, oh my god, 15, 20 minutes of sex
Easily,
scenes?
I don't think that it's.
Oh my God.
I don't think it's that long.
It feels
15 minutes.
Maybe feels
11
like
okay,
it. I
11
would say
minutes.
it's probably like 4 minutes, but okay.
Well, and honestly,
Look.
I was using it as a point of reference because I know, I mean, it's also like it did win Palme d'Or, and not to get us off this film onto another one, and I don't know if any of you have seen it, but Blue is the Warmest Color, same thing. But I think there's actually a lot of controversy around that because it was, sort of done in a way that no one really felt comfortable with. So it's worth at least, I'm not artistically.
What
it is
I know
it is.
about Blue is the Warmest Color, so I haven't watched it, but I've heard a lot of discourse about it just because I'm queer and that's what we talk about.
Right.
And what I know about it is that, what you said, like it was done in an uncomfortable way, but also that whatever happens is just not realistic. I know there's like some kind of spitting in each other's mouths thing that happens.
Yeah, it's been a while since I saw it, but
I've never
it is
seen
a good
it,
movie.
and I just
That's
know
the
that
thing.
because people talk about it so much.
Oh yeah. Well, no, it is. I mean, like on one hand, it's a really great movie, and then there's also this stuff where you're like, I don't know about this. sense, But in this movie, it's I didn't feel that way. Like I said, I think this movie actually works really well.
I'm also generally happy to see, first of all, a lesbian sex scene at all.
Yeah.
But secondly, one that's done right and realistically. Just like, we've talked about it on pod a lot, but like, so often when there is like a lesbian story, if they go to have sex, most of the time it's like, let's get into bed. Okay, lights off, lights back on. Oh, haha, now we're like naked under the covers and it's over. We're smoking cigs or whatever. Like, and it's like, you don't see anything at all. Or it's like completely weird, like not what sex is like.
Yeah, exactly.
So I found it to be cool that they went for it and did it well.
They tried all sorts of stuff out, too.
The representation, I guess, if nothing else, right? I mean,
absolutely,
it's nice
All right, so now that we've talked about sex for 12 minutes.
Let's keep it going.
Well, now we get to the nasty parts. Every day, the Count is spending time with the lady because he's trying to get her to fall in love with him, right? So they'll get married. And he is being very pushy and nasty towards the lady, which was a little difficult to watch, I think. There's one scene, after such a scene, that him and the handmaiden go off and have like a private convo, and he makes her grab his weenie.
Yeah, it was fucked.
Because he's basically like, I'm so horny and you're cock blocking me.
He considers himself a bit of a rake, but he's a huge asshole, and there's no real redeeming qualities. He's the villain, it feels like, as much as the other dude. The men are the villains, for sure.
Yeah. And actually in the book, he was a gay man. His character was a gay man. His only interest in
money.
the lady was, just monetary. When she pushes away from taking her hand or whatever, that scene was improvised.
She's hilarious, Suki. I mean, whoever plays her.
And this is her film debut.
That's
the
crazy.
actress.
Wow.
Oh shit.
Which is crazy because she kills it in this film.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so after all that, the uncle leaves for a trip, and while he's gone, the lady and the Count leave in the night to go get married. The plan was for them to get married, and then the handmaiden and him would get the lady committed to a mental hospital so that he could take her money and run, right? But instead, they plot twist on her and commit the handmaiden instead.
Did any of you see that coming?
I did not.
No. First jaw drop. I was like, this
cold as ice.
I saw the movie 5 years ago. I didn't remember, and I was surprised.
Same.
Yeah.
Because you're so ready. Like, they build it up so long, too, because it's like, he's gone for like a week or something.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
And every day she's like, come on, let's do this. Like, let's get her committed. Come on. So they just like keep building and building. And you're like, okay, we're at the mental hospital. Finally, she's going to go in.
Building. Yeah.
They're going to run off. It's going to be great. And then, they totally plot twist you. Yeah, they totally take you by surprise.
And their relationship of the two women is really heavily, explored. So they're very close to each other. Mm-hmm. So, but the conflict you see is like with Suki is that she's like, secretly trying to basically rob this lady and feeling so conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
And it puts the whole new perspective on it when they lock her up. And, it's like, oh, she really got played, and then we see how much she got played basically. Then that's
just the magic of this movie is like the selective editing that sort of tells these different stories, because it's all just like leaving the right bits out just to tell the right story. It's not even like it's like adding anything to the game, it's just like taking the right bits out,
right? And spending each part of the movie just telling one person's perspective. Gosh, it made the story so perfect.
Well, I love that kind of storytelling because it really forces you to connect with the motivations, right? Like of the people, but then that's just like life is complex in that way, where we all have different motivations, so you got to see things obviously differently. And for a movie to be able to simultaneously give you all sides of it or multiple sides of it that's just awesome storytelling, I think.
Hell yeah.
And kind of on that note, almost, it's like what actually, told in basically a normal linear way, would have actually been like a very simple story, is like given all this like complexity, basically, because of the way that it's sort of mixed around.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, the storytelling in this movie is just chef's kiss genius level, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
So part 2 is told from the lady's perspective now. And we start part 2 with a little bit of Lady's backstory. We see her as a little girl, basically getting whooped by her uncle and the maid that lives in the house. Everyone just being mean and violent towards her.
And her aunt, right? Her aunt. She's with her aunt when she grows up.
I think
Is that
so,
her
yeah,
aunt?
because her aunt's pretty nice, right? Her aunt's one that's like teaching her how to read and whatnot.
Her aunt's like the first victim.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, her aunt's nice, but the maid and her uncle are very mean and abusive.
Right.
And because of that, she starts to get a little mean, maybe. She slaps the maids.
I'd get pretty mad.
Yep. It's fucked up what they do. I mean, to all of them.
You know, one question I actually had, because there's like that one part where the uncle's like hitting her hand with the beads. Is that the same beads that they use for the Jade Gate later? The notorious Jade Gate?
The Jade Gate. Oh my God.
I think it is.
I was like, I couldn't tell for sure, but I was like, damn, is that like, yeah.
I thought it was, but I could be wrong, but.
And they have those beads early. No, they were earlier in the movie too.
Mm-hmm.
They're in her drawer, right?
Yeah.
That's like one of the early discoveries.
It's a very important item throughout.
Colin and Remsy, what do y'all think? Same beads?
I mean,
I thought so.
Same or different, it really makes no difference. I mean, but yeah, probably the same.
Yeah. So what we find out is that the books that the old man collects are old man pervert books with like pornographic stories that are like black market type books, it seems like.
So.
And they're Japanese.
Yeah, and they're Japanese.
Yeah.
So what he's been doing to both her and her aunt while her aunt was alive was making them read these terrible pornographic books all day long, and then at times for groups of businessmans, horny businessmans. So doing like these private readings that they are not consenting to, and they're pretty torturous for these two women.
Yeah, it seems very traumatizing.
There's even an aspect of like just like staging and acting out some of these aspects of the readings too, which is that much more extreme.
Yeah. I did think it was really interesting in those scenes when they're reading to the men, how he chose to portray men being violent towards women without having to show violent acts necessar's if that makes sense. Like, it almost feels like a rape.
Violation.
Yeah, a rape or a violation. But they're sitting across the room. Nobody's touching anybody. And he didn't have to show that to get that feeling across.
Yeah, it is weird. And it's interesting because at the same time, like, even the stories themselves are kind of like weirdly, opaquely grotesque, but they're not even like really deeply like specific. It's just gross.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really weird and kind of metaphorical, weird, like porno writing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I just thought that was like a really cool choice and creative to want to depict that violence from men onto women without having to show a rape.
Yeah.
just to communicate the same feeling. That was really interesting how they did that.
Yeah.
And the aunt hangs herself, quote unquote hangs herself.
Yeah, it's all very disturbing. I mean, that whole sequence in the second act is just disturbing.
Very disturbing, but also captivating.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean,
I almost said thrilling, and that felt wrong. Captivating.
Well, it explains so much. You know that something. I think it's like in the first act. You know that something is so wrong,
but you don't know
really
what.
Hinted at.
Yeah,
it's really hinted at, and then they're very explicit in this sort of second act, and it makes it reveals so much, you know, from the beginning by understanding him more. And that's just, like I said, I mean, I think that's just where the storytelling shines.
I don't know if it was just me, but like anytime that they were dealing with the whole aunt hanging herself from I think it was a cherry blossom tree, I kept on like, I mean, my head just kept on going to like there being this like supernatural element that like just basically never happened. I kept on thinking it was going to come, and it just sort of like never really happened, which was totally fine. I don't know. Maybe that's just like where my head goes when I'm watching movies.
The octopus and it's this very weird visual stuff that feels out of place. I mean, like that octopus at the end is like the icing on the cake in that way. It's like it's not really supernatural, but it's just wrong, but it's like perfect. It's really weird.
Well, I think so. At the very beginning, when the handmaiden first arrives to the house, the lady screams, alleging that she had a nightmare about her aunt who hanged herself in the tree, and saying that her ghost shows up. So maybe that's where the supernatural stuff starts for you. But then later we find out she faked the nightmare.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're totally right.
So then, yeah, the ghost wasn't anything.
Big time fake out.
Yeah, and then what we find out is that the aunt didn't even hang herself. So the little girl, the little lady? Little girl lady is reading a book about when people hang themselves and what happens to their bodies.
Oh, yeah.
We love a young, morbid queen. And that she finds out that what happens when you hang yourself is that your tongue sticks out and you shit yourself, basically. But she goes to her uncle and is like, hey, uncle, this book says your tongue hangs out and you shit yourself, but Aunt's tongue was inside her mouth and her buns were dry, so what's the deal here?
I forgot about that, yeah. What did he say? What's his response to that? I don't remember.
He says, let me show you what I did to your aunt when I caught her trying to run away, and takes her to the basement. But we don't see what's in the basement at that point in time. But it's kind of suggested that it's something bad, probably torturous.
Yes.
We get there eventually.
Yeah.
We do get there eventually, but not at first. They leave it mysterious for a while. So so this poor little lady, this poor little girl lady grows up into regular sized lady. So the Count is one of these horny men attending the readings. So that's how he's been involved with the family. And he proposes a deal to the lady. So they have a scheme of their own that they will run off together and get married, and he will free her basically from her prison here if she splits her fortune with him. And she was before that planning on killing herself. So he said, if you marry me, I'll give you this vial of concentrated opium.
Yeah.
That is a convoluted purchase.
That's the deal. 3 drops will fuck you up, 5 will put you to sleep for a day, and the whole vial will kill you. And you get this when you marry me. Happy gift.
The longer the movie went on, the longer I was like, that's a really good deal.
Yeah.
It's a great deal. It's just marriage. Who cares? That's not a real thing anyway.
The other options were much worse, unfortunately. So it seems like it...
a lot of suffering. Yeah. There's a lot of suffering going on.
Not a lot of great options in general, but definitely the best option that was presented.
They hatched this plan for the man to send her a handmaiden that's naive and dumb so that they can get the handmaiden into a mental hospital as the lady and switch her identity and thereby free her, right?
Yes.
Is that explaining it clearly enough?
This is it's very convoluted, but you're getting it all.
Now we're caught up back to where part 1 starts, basically, right? So he has hatched a scheme with both the handmaiden and the lady against each other, sort of. Crazy shit. So we basically, from here forward, or for the rest of part 2 at least, go back over everything that happened in part 1, but with the lady's viewpoint, a little bit extended or things from a different angle, and going back through everything. Again, a lot of the dialogue or phrasing from part 1 is reused or like reintroduced in a different way in part 2. Which is really
I really
cool.
like that mechanism a lot, honestly.
Did either of y'all see Black Bear?
No, I don't know if I know about Black Bear.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
So we did Black Bear for the pod not too long ago. It's a movie with Aubrey Plaza that I would say I wouldn't recommend it. It's not
Fair
very
enough.
good, but it tries to do this as well.
Okay.
And I think what Black Bear tried to do, this movie did 100% the best way, because it does the same. It uses the same thing where it uses a lot of the same dialogue. It's the same. It's in 2 parts, and it uses a lot of the same dialogue in part 2 that was in part 1, but just kind of switches who's saying it or what context it's being used in and things like that. But this movie does it really good.
I could see like this trope being what it is, like it being a very, very easy way to like dig yourself into writing something that just feels kind of hacky. Like it's got to be really hard to pull something like this off, and it's so seamless in this.
It kind of has a pre-built. I mean, it's a gimmick at its heart, you know. So it's like how can you sort of transcend that? And I think that it does it just because the world is so fascinating. You want to know what's happening, and it does a really good job of revealing it in a way that just it keeps you interested the whole time. Like you're fully engaged in the story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like a
Definitely.
lot of the stuff that the lady was saying to the handmaiden in part 1, then now we're seeing someone else actually said to her first in part 2 or something like that, and she's just regurgitating it. So you're it's digging deeper into how she's actually conniving and all the ways in which she's conniving, which is very cool.
She's a lot smarter than she lets on.
Yeah.
I mean, she plays this. She doesn't. That's the great thing of the actor. She does such an amazing job playing this like sort of very quiet, very soft spoken, very unassuming,
almost like dissociated character.
naive.
Oh, yeah, naive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Naive. But she's anything but naive. She has more, experience with this shit than anybody because you literally spent her whole life growing up in it.
And spent her whole life reading books, so she's smart as hell.
Totally.
Very smart.
So the Count gives her a whole bunch of tips on how exactly to go along with this story that they're building for the Handmaiden too. So it's so wild. Yeah, you just kind of find out that the whole time they're just running schemes on each other. And I don't know. The way they evolve
But the
everything
romance
so
is
cool.
real.
The romance is real. And we see a little more of the sex scene as well in part 2.
I mean, much more. It goes all in on a sex scene.
It goes full 69. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it does.
It does.
It
That's
dives
true.
face first.
I like the line where I think it's Suki saying something about like, "Oh my gosh, you're like such a natural at this" or something.
Yeah.
Tell you what, though, when it got to the 69, that's when I stopped being horny. And I was like,
What, because you were finished?
I'm good. Yeah, it felt like I was finished. I was like, we don't need any more of this. We're good. We're good.
Ew.
We don't need any more sex. It's a lot. We've had enough. I get it. They fucked. I don't know. With a movie this long, I thought it was,
it's a
we don't need
3-hour
to
movie,
linger.
exactly.
I get it. I understand. They fucked.
Gotta ride out like 6 to 7 positions to make it real, though.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, they get all the
They
positions.
do. They cover
Good on them.
Yeah. A couple times.
And again.
Yes. So in the first part, we had seen that maybe one of the first times that the lady is kind of vulnerable with the handmaiden. What does she say? Something like, "Do you really want me to marry the man even if I'll be unhappy," or something like that? I don't know. She's kind of implying like, I'm in love with you instead at that time. But the handmaiden is still committed to the I'm going to make you fall in love with the Count.
And get that money.
Conflicted at least.
So so in the first part we had seen that happen, and then the lady slap her and throw her out of the room. And then in the second part we see she's so disappointed that she was going to just go hang herself on the cherry tree and starts trying to, but the handmaiden catches her just as she falls.
It's a really weird scene where she's like about to do this horrible thing, and then it becomes like a
little
comic
comic
scene where
relief.
she's like holding her by the legs, and then she like lets her go, and she's like choking. It's
Right.
like it's funny, but it's like really fucking grim.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I think Korean cinema
Yeah.
It's all about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
pretty much their thing. That point, I think, is kind of when it becomes clear that the two of them are finally confessing that they're each having feelings for each other. And they confess their trickery plans, too, and decide to team up.
Yeah.
And they destroy the library as well
Oh, yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah. Going aisle to aisle.
Yeah, and it's kind of like when that happened, I was like, wait, are we in the past or where? Because that's sort of, I think, where the storylines kind of converge. Because I was really confused about what was like where it was at chronologically at that point.
They destroy the library together first
Yeah.
before they run away.
But before she goes to like the madhouse.
Right. Because in the first part, it had shown them like running across the field with their suitcases and getting into the boat and whatnot before they're going to Japan or wherever they go to do the marriage, to do yada yada.
Yeah.
So in part 2, it shows them destroy the library and then get the suitcases and run across the field and get into the boat.
So it is after she's left the asylum, though, right?
No.
Okay.
Part 3 starts with her being in the asylum having the
Right.
fire.
It's like if they destroyed all the
okay.
books, like what isn't the uncle gonna go?
I think
eat
that's the
shit
time
when
where
that
the
happens?
uncle's out of town because he like leaves town for like that
Yeah.
week or two or something, and I think that's when
Oh,
he's in...
right. Okay. I didn't catch this. This is good. This is making a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, so in the first part they talk about the uncle was gone for a week and that's why they ran away at that specific moment to get married
Right,
because
right,
he
right.
wanted to marry her. So he would never have
Exactly.
allowed her to marry another man. So they wait till he's out of town to run away and get married.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, so then at the end of part 2, we're back at her getting committed into the mental hospital. Then it's like she was in on it. She was in on being committed to the hospital. So the way she played it was she's just a great actress, right? In part 1.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
Yes.
Nailed it.
All right, so part 3, we're now into a new story. Well, not a new story, but I just mean like because part 1 and part 2 were the same story, just from different angles. So part 3 is the continuation. So the handmaiden's in the hospital and there's a fire, which I think maybe she lit or had something to
I
do
feel
with
like probably
lighting.
she had to, right? Sorry, I burped there a little bit.
It wasn't really fully explained, but I mean, it seemed like it was either contrived by her or her troop or something, you know?
Yeah, because she does have a hairpin that she's hidden to help unshackle herself.
Right.
So she has a scheme to get out of this hospital when she goes in.
I mean, she's good at sort of criminal stuff.
Good at doing
Right,
bad
yeah.
things.
She is a
Best
crime
part.
doer. She's a crime boss. Hmm.
Yeah, she knows what's up.
I also just loved their fire outfits
Yeah.
that they put on.
Ah, I adored it.
Yeah. They have little like capes and helmet things or something like.
It's the period stuff you got to enjoy. There's like a scene where they, it's when they like see each other for the first time after she gets out.
Mhm.
And it's just like, you see all these people walking by and there's like cars and all this kind of stuff and it's outside. And I'm just like, that stuff is just cool to me. I don't know. I just love that like period. It's so simple. I don't know when I see stuff like that, because it's like the whole point of us is to not even notice it and just feel like you're immersed there. But you know that they like literally had to contrive every single element of it, the filmmakers.
Right.
Because it's none of that shit just exists.
Yeah.
I love that. That's just so
I mean,
cool.
all of it, like all of the sets and like the elaborate, her bedroom, like how much stuff that she has. What do they open, like 12 drawers just of gloves? Like
Oh my god, yeah.
all of that had to be placed there. And like, man,
the furniture.
what a
and
job.
It's just great.
What a house,
Yeah.
really, too. I mean, my god.
yeah, every detail of all that is very cool, very incredible. Even like, there's like a little peephole in the door.
Oh, yeah.
Peephole's cool.
Love the people.
And you just you gotta appreciate having a setting that's so tight. I mean, like the movie goes a couple places, but it almost all takes place in this house.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
It's just like a
point,
cool.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Count says that he's falling for the lady a little bit, which the whole deal was that none of this was going to be romantic, right? So he's kind of breaking his own rule. And so to get away from him, she first goes to his room. Were they in the same place, or did she like have to come over?
That is a good question, actually.
I don't know. Because it seemed like she came over, right? I don't know.
This is just one of those movies where I just trusted the process. I was like, there's going to be a lot of things that are happening, and I'm not going to
Exactly.
totally get
Okay.
every single one of them.
That's fair.
That's the sign of good writing. It drops you in the moment that you're supposed to be there, and it doesn't really explain all the shit that happened to get you there, because like you don't really need to know it.
You don't need to know. Yeah, sure. So she drugged a drink with the opium she got as a wedding gift. And
Great gift.
the whole...
I've got a wedding coming up. Wink, wink.
Mazel tov.
So this whole scene is pretty extraordinary, just the way they like keep you on the edge of your seat, I think. Because she's trying to drug him, but he won't drink the drink. So she uses seduction to try and get him to drink this opium-laced drink, but he's getting too horny too fast. So she takes the drink into her mouth and spits it into his
Like a
mouth like a
baby.
bird, and then makes him drink it that way.
Birds don't do that with water. Come on.
They probably do. Well, how else is the mama bird gonna get the baby birds
It's
some
probably
water?
true. That's probably true.
Shit.
Okay.
There's water
All
in
right.
bot.
I'm a thinker. I'm a thinker.
All right. I'm gonna come back next episode with the true facts.
This was such like an interesting turning point scene, I feel like, for me, because honestly, up until this point, like every single man that you see in this movie is like basically like completely overtaken by lust. It's like a lot of not important characters, but like everything you see with them is like they're completely overtaken by lust. And so far, even though the count is, there's moments where he's kind of like sort of making weird little advances. He hasn't really like fully succumbed. And it's like not until he like fully succumbs to that lust that it like turns upside down on him.
Which is almost like to the point where it's almost hard to buy because he's like such a straight shooter.
Yeah. I kind of agree.
But maybe he's just so excited that she said she would do it with him when he always thought she was unattainable.
That's a good point. That's good. Yeah, because that's like one of the first things is like she's the only woman that like would not avert her gaze from me or whatever. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, because he does say like normally any woman I see, they're basically like opening their legs for me left and right. You know, can't get past a pair of legs without him opening. And she's the only one that he was like, she never was like that, and I could tell she would never be in love with me. So to finally get the one girl who wouldn't,
and he was right. He was right. His intuition was right.
His gaydar was on.
Should have listened to his instinct.
Yeah. He says that line like women feel the greatest pleasure when taken by force. And he's like trying to be very forceful with her and like rip her underwear and whatnot. Meanwhile, I mean, the way it shows her just constantly looking at her watch and like the time kind of slowing down to where like every second is like one more second and I could be raped if this man doesn't pass out from opium.
It's kind of harrowing.
It is harrowing.
Yeah.
It is harrowing, and it was such great suspense.
Yikes.
I mean, right in the nick of time, though. Not to give away too many spoilers, but at least, you know, it worked out.
It's not a spoiler. We're literally there.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so he doesn't make it, as they say. But when he wakes up from being passed out from opium, some hitman type dudes are there to collect his ass and take him back to the uncle. While he's in the car, he's smoking all those cigs. My man loves to smoke a cig.
Yeah.
To the point where
You think he's gonna give one to each one of the guys who's with him? He's like, no, these are
It's
all
like
for me.
3 in his mouth.
he takes out like
he just
3 or 4
smokes them all.
cigs. Yep, puts them all in his mouth
Straight
at
to
once.
the dome.
He's in flavor country.
If I did that, I'd be passed
There's
out.
this guy I follow
Sure.
on Instagram that loves doing that. It's pretty outrageous to watch.
That's a trashy move.
Oh, yeah?
I mean,
It's impressive in a
Sean's,
way, but also
Sean's following
disgusting.
cig guys on Insta.
I mean, basically.
It can't be that hard.
It can be
Right?
done. It's just not going to feel great when it's done.
I mean, this is the kind of stuff you grew up in Northwest Ohio. You see
Sure.
it. I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, people love to do that kind of absurd shit. They're just getting really drunk, you know, driving around the country and
Me and Colin both grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, so
Oh, yeah. People smoking 2 cigs, thinking that's badass, is our bread and butter.
it's all the same shit. Ohio, Indiana,
yeah.
Illinois, for that matter. I mean,
Well, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say Chicago is, but when,
no,
when
not
you get a little
Chicago, but like
farther
Illinois,
out,
though.
yeah.
I mean, Illinois is a big state. You know, there's some
Sure.
Illinois out there for sure.
So I also loved when he's smoking all those cigs and it pulls out to the wide shot of like the car trailing down the road that you see the smoke trailing behind the car as well. I just thought that was
Foreshadowing.
pretty funny.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, a little bit.
I love that mix of foreshadowing and just a little bit of comic relief.
Well, because that's really that's the next scene, right? The next scene is he's there with the uncle. You know, he's been caught.
Go ahead, tell us what happens in the scene.
Well, yeah. So he's in that car literally, and I think after that we sort of see him, and we're down in the lowest layer
In the basement.
The basement.
Holy shit.
The literal lowest manifestation of the house. They're down there, and it is a torture machine. That's what we thought, and that's what it is. And he's like chopping off his hand.
His fingers one at a time.
Yeah, his fingers one at a time. And then he sort of pierces his whole other hand. So,
With a
but he's
drill.
pretty chill about it, honestly. The thief guy, whatever.
He's fucked up off all those cigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's chilling. But well, so then that's his thing is he asks for a cigarette. And the dude is like trying to get all of the sort of really, you know, he's like a sick like freak, and he's trying to get all the details about like having sex with his niece, which is super fucked up. And he's like salivating over the idea of it. And the other dude's like, all right, I'll tell you. After he's cut off his fingers, he's like, I'll tell you, but I need a cigarette first. Like, you cut off all my fingers.
Yeah.
So then he gives him the cigarette, which is blue,
Right.
and he starts smoking it up. And we sort of realize when he starts smoking, something's up.
Because he keeps asking for cigs. I think, doesn't he smoke like 3 of those
Smokes
blue
2
cigs?
or
3, yeah.
Two?
Yeah, he has a couple.
Yeah.
2.
The whole movie, we see those blue cigs in his little cigarette
His
case.
little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look badass.
They do look badass.
That's his cyanide pill, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's a 2-for-1 because the smoke kills the crazy uncle dude too. So the two shitheads they pretty much go down in a gruesome way. And then the snake breaks. We see the snake break, which is kind of the. But I thought it was cool. Obviously, when I was saying the story, I was kind of alluding to it. But it is like it's the whole thing being in this one house, and it's like it has these like hidden layers, and it's the whole thing's very literary. The whole movie kind of has that, I feel like, aspect to it where it's very sort of metaphorical in its structure and stuff. And I thought that you're really in the lion's den at that point, and it's super fucked up down there. You don't want to be there.
I mean, just to like describe the room too, like there are jars full of cut off weenies and vaginas all over the whole room.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? I was a little. They go over kind of quickly. It doesn't like.
They don't ever zoom in on it or anything. It's just background, but like it's definitely many, probably hundreds of jars of weenies and vaginas. Yeah. And there's also, that we kind of talked about earlier, but like the huge tank with the octopus in it too.
The octopus, yeah. So what's he doing down there? Is he chopping stuff off?
I thought that was probably 2 things. Like probably the octopus was used as some sort of torture, like the octopus sucking on you or something. I don't know. But also, well, there's also a painting that's shown at some point in the movie. It's an actual painting of like an octopus with a woman. So maybe that.
The octopus porn, yeah.
The tentacle thing is a trope. It's a trope in like Asian culture, I think, especially like in
Oh, but you wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, so one of us knows what it's about.
No, but I'm saying that like, well, it goes back to the ink, like the ink suckers. Sure. You're totally right. And the octopus, which is like almost like whether it has a purpose there or not, it's so just disgusting and huge and overgrown. It's like it's that physical manifestation of this like horrible, sick, evil thing that's like living underneath them all, you know? It's pretty pretty smart.
I thought maybe it was also a little nod to Old Boy where have y'all seen Old Boy?
I have, yeah.
It's been so long, I hardly remember it.
It's been a long time.
I know, it's crazy as hell.
But yeah, there's a pretty famous scene in Old Boy where a man eats a live octopus, and the octopus is like, the legs are like slapping all over his face and everything.
Yep, that's right.
Old Boy also, same director. Yeah,
no,
maybe was a little...
That's a classic too. Yeah, that's a good one.
Absolutely. Not streaming anywhere. I tried to rewatch. Sad about that. Only the remake is streaming.
Oh yeah, there's a remake. I forgot about that.
Yeah. I never watched the remake.
I think I have either.
Don't think I'd like to.
So it's an interesting.
He's a great director. I mean, he's got some other good movies too.
Yeah, I watched a short that he did.
Stoker, I saw was on your list. I've seen that one too. That one's
I haven't seen it yet.
Pretty weird.
I don't think I've seen that one.
The short I watched was called Judgment from 1999. That was also
cool.
Pretty good.
A little older.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, we're getting to the end, right? We're almost there.
We are almost there. Okay.
So they die, right?
Yeah, he smokes the mercury cigarettes, which he says mercury is most poisonous in its gaseous form, which I don't think is true. And I also don't think that it kills people like that, but it does in this movie.
Even if it is true, he's sucking it in and then blowing it out. Wouldn't he
That's
die
what I
first?
was thinking.
He dies.
Yeah.
They both die. Mm-hmm. It's not really explained.
It doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't really
doesn't
matter.
add up, ultimately doesn't matter. What we're happy about is that they both die.
Yeah. Bingo.
And the girls are together. They go
right.
to Shanghai. They get out of the countries. They're off together.
And they have like an epic sex scene, really. That's where it ends.
Yeah, the epic sex scene with the vagina bells.
The Jade Gate!
And their Jade Gates. And happily ever after, they're free from the men.
Yeah.
And that's roll creds on the bells.
On the bells, yeah.
On the bells.
Oh, man. What a journey it's been.
Oh, my God. I saw that they were having one final sex scene, and I was just like, come on. You need another
one? Long one, too. It's not short. It's like 4 or 5 minutes long. Yeah.
No, it's like a minute and a half. It's not long, but like, I get it. It feels long, but like, whew. It just feels like
Golly was wore out.
I was wore out. I can only do it so many times in a day.
Golly. I'm so sorry for my pervert co-host.
I didn't. There were no hogs cranked. I'm a professional when watching cinema.
Oh my lord.
Yeah. Okay, so we've rolled the creds. I thought even though this movie was like technically, 2.5 hours long, which normally would be a put off for me, I didn't think that it felt long.
No.
At all.
No, definitely not.
It goes quick. I mean, it's kind of an epically long story in the sense that there's a lot that happens, but it moves super quickly.
I thought so.
They're trying to tell a lot.
Kali disagrees, but you think every movie is slow.
Okay, sure.
I kind of like when a movie is like 3 hours long. That's not really a turnoff to me. I'm usually like, if this is good, then like I want to be there, you know.
This one just feels like every sort of like tale, so to speak, the 3 parts were like, it almost felt like episodic to me, you know? It's just like, it like breaks it up in a very like solid way.
In a way that keeps you interested and engaged, I think. And they really use the time.
And just doesn't make it feel so overwhelming.
Yeah, sure.
Know?
Yeah, it has a novelistic quality to me, I feel like. You know, it's a very much like it's just got that kind of storytelling, I feel like.
Absolutely.
All right, so we have to rate this out of 5. So what are we thinking?
You know, can you do like decimals?
You can do halves.
Okay. Like just halves?
No quarters.
I think I'm going to give this one like, for me, it's like a 4.5 out of 5, honestly, I think. I don't know. It was a very good movie. I think it's like, I'll just leave it at that. 4.5 out of 5. I enjoyed it very much.
I'm saying 4 out of 5. I think the quality of the filmmaking is really good. I think it's memorable. I think it's good storytelling. I think there is some stuff about it that maybe it's just, and I don't know, maybe this is good. Maybe it's just, you know, some of it's just a little unsettling, a little gratuitous. That kind of turned me off just a little bit. But overall, I mean, it's definitely worth a watch for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, Kali?
Great movie. Excellent. I fucking loved the ending. All the twists were outstanding. But sorry, even though apparently it's invalid to you, Kayla, like, this movie dragged for me. It really was like, a lot of times I was like, okay, yes, I get it. We can move on now. But otherwise, fucking outstanding movie. 3.5 for me.
3.5.
Okay. I'm going to go 4.5 as well. I was thrilled from T to B. I loved the world that they lived in. I thought the actors killed it. And already said, genius storytelling. It's not often for me that I'm caught off guard by a movie or by a twist. And this movie really twists you several times even. Yeah, I thought it was so good. 4.5 for me.
Bam.
The critics agree. They loved it.
Safe to say we would all recommend. Yeah.
Now it's time for ScreenVomit.
So, in this part of the show, we just pop off about whatever else we've been watching lately, movies, shows, whatever. So, Kali, what you been watching?
Yeah. Continuing to work through Studio Ghibli for the first time, and I watched 2008's Ponyo.
Okay.
Which was delightful, outstanding. Of the, 6 I've seen, it's the one I enjoyed the least, but it's still, that means it's just a 4-star movie. Still great. Love Ponyo.
Oh, Ghibli, unbelievable.
Yeah. I just watched a documentary called Harlan County, USA from 1976.
Oh, that's on my list.
I love that movie. I love that movie.
This is a must-watch documentary.
Oh,
this is if you want to know why I fucking adore unions and worker organizing and finding your power in the workplace, check this movie out. It is a fucking masterpiece.
That's Kali's
I love
shit.
It.
5 out of 5.
Absolutely. Yes.
Amazing movie.
Without
and there's
doubt.
a companion. I don't know if you saw it, but it's called...
No.
Yeah. So she won the Academy Award, and she made another documentary, same type of thing about unions. It's about the Hormel Foods in the late 80s. It's called American Dream.
Oh, hell yeah.
Same thing. It's set in the late 80s, early 90s. Amazing. Harlan County, USA is better. That movie is... that's one of the best documentaries of all time. Yeah.
Yes. Had me in tears several times. I watched Scorsese's 91 feature Cape Fear, which I love. I love Cape Fear. De Niro doing a southern accent, I'm here all day. This shit was so fun. Plus, Of course, I'm a big Simpsons fan, and there's a Simpsons episode that
hell
rips
yeah.
it off.
It's a
yeah.
good episode.
It's an outstanding episode. And then yesterday, Lindsay and I continued with Studio Ghibli by watching the Kingdom of Dreams and Madness documentary about Studio Ghibli and their work on The Wind Rises in 2013 and some other movie that I can't remember the title of. But just outstanding.
Miyazaki is...
He's just a fucking fascinating character. Sometimes you're just like, Jesus, man, calm the fuck down. You're kind of like...
An asshole.
Kind of an asshole, but then you're just like, yeah, man, but you make really good, like...
Price of genius kind of thing.
Yeah, he's just like... He's fascinating. I highly recommend it. Just a delight. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. One of y'all two?
Yeah, so I haven't really been doing quite as much films, although actually I did recently watch a Ghibli movie, which made me think of that. Pretty recently, I rewatched Princess Mononoke, which is one of my favorites. Good. I mean, that movie is just amazing.
So fucking good.
Studio Ghibli, like the fact that they're all now on the HBO or the...
Yep, HBO Max.
Shit.
Yeah, is an absolute treasure trove of whimsical fantasy Japanese anime, just like incredible. Been rewatching The Sopranos. I'm actually just at the end.
Yes!
Oh my god!
Yes!
I've seen The Sopranos. Like I think I've seen it
That's
like
Colin's
4 or 5
favorite
times.
show.
Yeah, me too. It's like comfort food, honestly, for me.
I get it.
This has been a really tough winter.
Sure.
Yeah.
And for me, I can just like I can. It's kind of bad because I can just like I know it all so well, and I can just like zone on it. So it's just enjoyable for me and relaxing.
Yes.
in a way.
I'm looking up at my Polly Walnut sticker right now.
It's the way I turn my brain off. So like I haven't been. I got to get back in the game because I do. Like I said, I love watching films. It's been the immersion of trying to get our film done has been the thing to do. But like, yeah.
Hell yeah.
That it?
So that's me. Sopranos. I guess to speak to
plug
that,
The
I'll just say that-
Sopranos.
I will plug The Sopranos.
All day long.
Shout out to the Sops.
Not that they need any more accolades because everybody knows about it, but it's comfort food.
Hell yeah. Sean, how about you?
Well, I guess somewhat ironically for this episode, I actually did just finish the Handmaid's Tale for the first time, which was good. I enjoyed it.
You watched
I watched
all of it?
of it. I made it through season 3,
Wow.
which I know a lot of people did not really like, and I kind of get that, but I thought it was. I mean, I enjoyed it to the end. I don't know, but beyond that, I think like notably, I saw Dark Days for the first time, like maybe like a couple weeks ago, which was really sick and really intense.
Have you guys seen that?
No.
It's good. It's like
What is
this documentary on like it's like the homeless people who live under the like in the subway in like Midtown and shit.
shit.
Want it on your
It's-
list.
Yeah, it's fucking insane.
Okay.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
That movie was awesome. And then I've actually just been kind of, I mean, I guess to sort of connect with Asian cinema in general, I've been going through the Lone Wolf and Cub movies, if any of you are familiar.
I am not. Nope.
It was sort of like the era of like samurai movies, like sort of in the 80s ish. Actually, I forget when the first Lone Wolf
Hell
Cub
yeah.
came out, maybe like late 70s. I forget exactly the year, but it was like the first brand of like samurai movies that got like overly like gratuitously violent and stuff. And it's, you know, they're fun. So, but yeah, so far, I think I've seen 2 of them now, and I would definitely recommend. There's like one, it's called Shogun Assassin. They made is like it combines like the whole trilogy in like one movie and kind of condenses it and stuff. And that movie rules. That one's just like really fun. But yeah, Lone Wolf and Cub.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's heartfelt.
What about you, Kayla? What do you
Kayla, what you
My
got?
turn. now I feel like everyone's looking at me. Okay, so I have a couple things that I picked out. I watched American Movie.
Oh
Anybody
God,
seen?
I fucking love
fuck, that's on my
American movies
list.
so fucking much.
I haven't seen that.
Oh man,
Kali, what'd you say?
It's on my dang list.
Okay.
I was just looking through my list like, oh man.
You would love it.
Yeah.
You're gonna
It's
love
like a
it.
documentary, right?
Hell yeah.
It is a documentary from 1999 about this guy who's just another poor midwesterner filmmaker.
Right. Making like an indie feature or something.
He spends like years trying to make this short film in order to raise money for a feature that he has also spent years on but ran out of money.
Colvin.
So
Incredible.
he's Yeah, every, I don't know, character, it's a documentary, so they're real people, but they feel like characters because they're all so unhinged. And yeah, incredible film.
Mike Shank is maybe one of the best like documentary characters of all time, honestly.
Yeah, surprised to find out he is still alive to this day after some of the stories that he told. Very crazy.
Have you actually ever seen Coven? I think it's actually on YouTube. You can like watch the short film.
It's not on YouTube anymore.
Oh,
it was for a time, but now the only way to watch it is on the special features on the DVD of American Movie.
I didn't realize.
And the DVD's out of print, so you have to buy it on eBay, and it's like $30 to $100.
Oh my god, are you serious?
Muchy.
So
Coven's actually pretty sick. Like I actually really enjoyed the short.
well, I should say there is a version on YouTube, but it's negative, and they fucked with all the voices, so they sound like mice. So like if you want to watch it negative and with all the voices sounding like mice, you can do that.
Could
but
be fun.
I tried it for about 30 seconds, and it was weird and scary. I couldn't do it.
Damn, I think my sister's got a copy of the DVD. I don't know if she knows how much it's worth. Maybe I'll see if you can borrow it and watch Coven.
Yeah, let me borrow if
Yeah,
possible.
I'll see what I can do. She lives in St. Louis, but we'll make it happen.
That'd be sick.
I gotta check that out. I've heard
It's
a lot
so
of good things.
good. Oh
It's
my
really
God.
good. Funny. So funny.
Yeah, that's great. All right, I got two more. Sean, tell me how he said the other one. Synechdoche?
Synechdoche, New York.
Synechdoche.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh, I love Synechdoche, New York. What did you think of it?
Obviously, perfect movie. I mean, incredible.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
Oh my god, I love it.
It's also like,
I've seen that so many times.
so well, just a little what it's about is Philip Seymour Hoffman is like a playwright who's trying to come up with his next thing, basically, but he spends the rest of his life trying to come up with his next thing. And oh my god,
it's a heartbreaking movie.
It's absolutely heartbreaking, and especially like it's sort of like 4D experience, like knowing what we know now, you know, because like he spends so much of the movie just like being depressed and suicidal and everything, and then you know
that movie makes me cry. I've seen that movie so many times. That movie makes me cry.
Yeah, I mean it's just incredible and such a
Charlie
creative
Kaufman
story.
is a treasure.
And it's just such a creative story and just so good and so cool. So yeah, watch that. Never seen it before. It's one of those movies that had been on my list for forever, and I just like never think of it when I sit down, and I finally did it. All right, last one. I watched this movie Chained for Life, which was also I was going to recommend to you, Sean.
Oh, really? I don't think I've even heard of that one.
It's a deep indie,
Okay.
so it's okay that you haven't heard of it. It has Adam Pearson, who was in Under the Skin.
Yeah.
It also has Jess Wexler, who's in a bunch of stuff. She's in Death of Dick Long. She's
That name
in.
sounds really familiar.
I don't know.
Just
She's
Wexler.
like. She's been in a lot of stuff. You might know her face.
Googling right now. That name sounds really. Oh, it's like Wexler, Wei. Oh yeah. What was she?
Yeah.
in? Oh, she's in Teeth. That's right. Oh yes.
Oh yeah, Teeth. That's yeah.
Teeth.
She's the Teeth girl.
I love Teeth.
So I mainly watched it because of the cinematographer, who I'm a big fan of, Adam J. Minnick, who's also the cinematographer for Relaxer.
Oh, cool.
He has such a cool style. The camera work in this movie is so creative. So the story is like Jess and Adam play like actors who are working on a movie that like is maybe exploitative of people with disabilities, and so they're working through that in this movie. So it's like a movie about making a movie. But yeah, the way they use the camera in this film is just outstanding. It's so creative. You don't know what's real sometimes or what's part of the movie. And then there's, just a lot of commentary on like beauty standards and things like that.
That sounds cool. Is Adam Pearson like pretty prevalent in it?
He's a main character.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. That sounds awesome, honestly.
And you see Pipe.
Yeah.
Oh, we like that.
My man loves to be ass naked.
Hell yeah.
Him and Jess are the stars. Like, they're the two main people. So, yeah, Chained for Life.
Oh, cool. That's kind of on the list.
Very good.
Hell yeah.
I just think Adam J. Minnick is such an inspirational cameraman, cinematographer, DP, whatever you want to call it. He has such a cool style. Okay, so that's it for that. Now it's time for plugs. So, do y'all have plugs? Where can people find you online?
Yeah, so I mean, my name's Remsy Atassi. That's pretty much like you can find me at Remsy Atassi, Remsy_Atassi. It's just me. I'm a filmmaker. I got a website, but mostly like check out the film. It's badanimal-film.com, emulsionlab.com. Those are the projects that we kind of work on together. We were plugging them before, and so our film. Well, you got a little sneak peek. So I'm curious to hear what you think because you obviously know a lot about films. But it's not out yet. It's not gonna you probably won't be able to publicly see it in a big way for I'd guess a year. But we will be popping up at some festivals. It's all in the DL, but we got some stuff happening on that front. So there'll be no doubt that there'll be some opportunities to screen it. If you follow us, sign up for the newsletter, you'll get it in your inbox when those opportunities pop up. So if you like films, if you like indie films, we're indie filmmakers. That's what it is. So there'll be a chance for you to kind of come out and support it and check it out if you're interested.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same zone. Check out Bad Animal. You could see all the updates we have a newsletter and a mailing list and whatnot, which you can go on the website for.
Yep.
But yeah, we're doing all this through Emulsion Lab, so check out Emulsion Lab, and yeah, that's the plug.
Yeah, we're on all the things, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but really Instagram's where we spend most of the time plugging things for ourselves. So, like the big stuff goes out everywhere, but that's where you can find us. Newsletter too, or just like, you can connect with us that way is good. Sean is also like he didn't plug himself at all. He should. It's Sean Kelly. You can plug. I don't know the real Sean, whatever it is, but Sean's like a amazing DP freelance guy, and we work together a lot. But Sean should plug himself. Plug yourself.
Instagram at @the_Sean Kelly, which I do need to change one of these days because it is not a great username, but that's what it is right now. So.
And any longtime normals will remember when we did our episode on Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. Our guest on that episode, Hannah Gamble, of course, has a show, Choose Me an Abortion Story, which I hooked Sean up with.
Yeah, it all happened because of you. My God.
So you can watch Hannah's show. Yeah,
which has been doing really well, actually. It's gotten into like a decent amount of festivals and stuff. And, it's a weird time to be in festivals, obviously. But
Hannah helped us out all over the film, like in subtle ways, really. Nothing like super big, but it was just like there from the beginning to the end as like a big supporter and advocate for Bad Animal.
Yeah, Hannah rocks.
Hannah ruled. Yeah, I think Hannah showed up in like multiple different parts of the film, and also just like lent a hand.
She's in the film too, in various. Yeah, she's like extras in unidentifiable extras in some places, and then like she is identifiable in like one scene.
Right, I saw her flash by for one, and I was like, was that it? But it was so fast, I was like, I think, think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, all that. Check out all their stuff. And then for us, of course, we have to thank Thin Swimmer for our theme song. Speaking of Chicago musicians, you can also find us on Instagram and everywhere else at ScreenVomit, one word on all the things. Give us a subscribe on your podcast app if you haven't already. Of course, leave us a rate and review. You can send us an email at screenvomitpod@gmail.com or tweet us with your thoughts on this movie or other movies or suggest a movie. Colin?
Hey, if you want to hear me and another guy talk about labor and all that crap, I got another podcast called How to Fire Your Boss.
Check that out.
It's up on all the... you don't have to.
I took that advice 10 years ago and never looked back.
Hell yeah. We got some freelance boys on the pod. All right, so next week we will be watching Brigsby Bear with another special guest. So check out that film and hit the next ep. And thanks, Sean and Remsy, for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And picking a sick movie.
Thank you. This is an awesome movie. This has been really fun. Thanks for inviting us.
Oh, of course. All right, and we'll see everybody else next week. Bye-bye. Everybody say bye.
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 That was nice.